3, 2, 1.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network.
Always catches me off guard.
This is Hunter, and I'm here with Colin. Colin, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. We got an interesting show here.
Dude, we've got one of my most. I've wanted to do this since we started the podcast, and I was like, this year, besides continuing to grow the podcast, something I decided is like, I'm going to do more stuff for me. Because, I'm an independent woman. I work hard. I'm like, we're going to do some more fun things here. And something that I really want to do is talk about our favorite comic book movies. And so...
What? Comic books?
I know, right? Shocking. I know. But we were talking about our top 10 favorite comic book movies ever. And I'll be honest, man... this list does have a right to change because we do have several comic book movies coming out here in the next year or so. I will say there is an admission from my list. I think that will surprise you / probably upset you. But I
won't be upset. It's your list. It can be whatever it wants to
be. You're so supportive. Thanks, man. But
but now I'm very interested to find out what that is.
But so I do got some honorable mentions here. I mean, so I will say you've known me for 18. You've known me for 18. Good God, 18 years. God, how have you not got?
Yeah, middle school.
How have you not blocked my number? But
there was times.
Yeah, I know. You're like, look at that block button, like.
One of these days.
I don't say the wrong thing, but
yeah, one more pun. Blocking it.
Yeah, no, I would not blame you. But you've known about my love of comic books like since we first became friends, and I will say this list was really difficult for me to do, and I'm still not even 100% sold on my list, to be totally honest.
100%?
Oh, clever, but
it wasn't clever.
I thought it was. Just take the compliment, Colin, but
well, I guess it was like 100 jokes.
Yeah,
so.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But before we kind of get into our list here, I want to talk about some honorable mentions. I got a couple here. So Snowpiercer, fucking love that movie, based on a French graphic novel. Couldn't find
that one's a stretch.
French graphic novel, based on a graphic novel, technically.
Yeah, a French one that no one read.
Well, people in Paris probably read it. I know there's other cities besides Paris, but that's the only one I can think of. But I digress. Chris Evans, man, I always go back and forth. I don't know if he's a great actor. He's a great Captain America, but Snowpiercer was a great fucking movie. I remember we all were actually we regretted the fact we didn't see that in theaters. I really enjoyed that one.
It was cool. It was definitely cool.
Another one, and this is the one that you're gonna go, what the fuck? Dark Knight didn't make my list. Gonna be putting it out there right now. I love The Dark Knight. I acknowledge how great it is. It's Nolan's second best movie, probably. I always get it confused. I think it's he did The Prestige, right? Prestige?
He did Prestige,
yeah.
He did Inception, and
I think Prestige is his best movie, personally. That
Prestige?
I think it is. That's my.
That's a weird opinion.
I think Prestige is his best movie, personally.
I mean, that movie's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just
Didn't he do Memento?
He did do Memento, and I actually like Prestige more than Memento.
Yeah, that was like one of my favorite movies for a long time.
Memento's still a great movie, and it ages really well.
Yeah.
My big beef with Dark Knight, I just the ending never hit me right. As far as the town just kind of accepting that, Batman did all this shit, and it had nothing to do with that terrorizing clown. Clowns are evil, but the ending just never hit me right. I just think Maggie Gyllenhaal in it is bad is unfair. I just think she's okay, and I really do hate the way that Two-Face is just killed off. I just I don't love that.
Okay. This is our favorite movies. This isn't Bash.
No.
Dark Knight
I'm just.
Why are we starting off our favorite movies with how much you don't like?
No,
Dark Knight?
I'm just giving some context.
It's kind of unfair.
I'm giving context for why Dark Knight isn't on my list. That's all I'm saying. Because I'll still give Dark Knight a fantastic. I just have issues with it. And then
okay, well, it'll get plenty of time having nice things said about it.
I know it's on yours. And then the last one I'll throw out is Unbreakable. It's still one of my, I know, not a technical comic book movie, but if nerds have pretty much said it's a comic book movie, it's still the best movie Bruce Willis has done in, oh god, when did Die Hard come out? It's been a while since Bruce Willis. He did Looper. He did do Looper, so that's
yeah, Looper was.
Yeah, but Bruce Willis, admittedly, for a while, hasn't been in consistently great movies.
No. He just takes whatever script's thrown.
Yeah, you can find him at your local Redbox. But Bruce Willis, though, he's great in that movie. And Split, of course, sets up Glass. So Bruce Willis will probably be in an actual good movie again for the first time in about 8 years. So 8 or 9 years. So good for you. Love Unbreakable too. Do you have any honorable mentions you want to throw out real quick?
I did. When I was in high school, Sin City came out, and I really loved Sin City when that came out, but it didn't make my list. Also, I couldn't find room for the 1989 classic Batman by Tim Burton.
Great one.
But I did love that movie when I was a kid. It really hasn't aged too well. It hasn't. Let's all be honest. Like the hairstyles and everything going on. I mean, it's still just like has that nostalgia factor. So I had to throw it on there. And then I also read somewhere that Big Hero 6 is actually based off of a Marvel comic. Yeah. So I really liked Big Hero 6. I thought that was a sweet movie. So there's that. Yeah, those are my honorable mentions. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna go ahead and start off the list here. I'm gonna start off do what we typically do, or do our 10 through 5, and then we'll do our 4 through 2, and then our number 1. So going down my list here, my number 10. It's a movie I don't think enough people have seen, but I just think it's so fucking funny. It was directed by Mr. James Gunn. It's Super, starring Rainn Wilson and
okay, yeah, that's a good
and Ellen Page.
So that's based off of an actual graphic
So
novel?
it's not based off an actual graphic novel, but since it's superhero inspired, I'm counting it. But
okay, all right. I like
Rainn Wilson plays the Crimson Bolt, and his battle cry is "Shut up, crime," which is I just thought was the funniest fucking thing. And plus he dresses up, in just this hilarious red suit, and then hits people with a wrench. I just that shit just makes me laugh. It's a really dark comedy, and Ellen Page, I love that woman. She's really quite wonderful in pretty much everything she's in, not including Flatliners. Oh, we'll pretend she didn't do that, but
she's even great when she's a video game.
Yeah, Beyond Two Souls. I'm replaying that right now. God, it's a great game, but
great game.
But their friendship and their back and forth is really fun, and it's really funny how they rip on Robin, as they should to an extent. How she's a Bolt girl, I think is what she calls herself in Super. Mm-hmm. And Kevin Bacon is just such a special kind of asshole when he's playing a villain. And he's got Liv Tyler in that movie, who Rainn Wilson is in love with, and he's got all drugged up and shit, like feeding her habits. Like, oh, you're not a piece of shit at all. I love that movie so fucking much, and it's surprisingly violent, which is. Mm-hmm. And I know people always want to kind of go like, "Oh, Kick-Ass." I would definitely say that Super is better than Kick-Ass. Damn sure better than Kick-Ass too. But Super, absolutely love that movie. So that's my number 10.
Nice.
My number 9 is Blade. fucking love Blade so much.
Nice. Wesley Snipes.
Just rewatched it like a week ago. Went, yep, still holds up. Of course, we won't mention Blade Trinity, which is just unfortunate. But the original Blade, I know everyone wants to talk about Black Panther, but people need to give Blade its props. Proof that you could make money with a rated R comic book movie. And this is after, this is right around the time Joel Schumacher almost killed comic book movies forever. So seeing Blade and Blade 2, which actually still holds up really well. What?
Blade 3 has Triple X.
You mean Triple H?
Triple H, sorry.
That would be a great crossover. Blade meets Triple H.
I mean, come on. You telling me that wouldn't...
Come on, Marvel. Make it happen.
Let's go. The Triple X Blade universe. Let's be awesome.
You know what? That's about the only thing that Vin Diesel hasn't fought at this point is a vampire. So, you know what? Fuck it. Why not? Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. But absolutely love that movie. My number 8 is something I just rewatched this weekend, and I just went, God, I forgot how much I love this movie. And the second one comes out next weekend, and Lord willing, it can hopefully capture even half of the magic of the original. It's The Incredibles. The Incredibles is... okay. It's really good. It's incredible how good it is. But...
yeah.
But... Man, you want to talk about a movie that just gets the pacing? I was rewatching that scene where Violet and Dash, they're getting chased by those bad guys, and Dash is running on the water. I was like, damn, this is fucking action packed. I really do love that movie, and Frozone, which is just that might be my Halloween costume this year. It's so brilliantly paced, and it's still the best Fantastic Four movie that we've ever gotten, as sad as that is. It's so well done. It's really charming. It's sweet. Syndrome? Yeah. Syndrome is a supervillain in the most classic way, in the sense that the hero creates him, and for a Disney movie, quite psychotic. I'm like, oh, you're pushing how nuts he is. I appreciate that, Disney. And so funny. It's damn near a perfect movie. I really can't think of a complaint about the movie off the top of my head, but I just love that movie. So Incredible,
it's a great movie.
Incredibles, you're wonderful. Number 7 is what I still, and we've had many spirited debates about this topic. I think it's the best X-Men group movie. So not counting Logan or Deadpool 2. It's X-Men First Class. I think Matthew Vaughn, who of course did the first Kick-Ass, thankfully didn't do the second, and did Kingsman, the Secret Service, the Golden Circle. Pardon me. He, for me, did the best X-Men movie. Yes, January Jones, Emma Frost is not great, and he has to take some blame for that. But Kevin Bacon is great in that movie. Michael Fassbender is a phenomenal Magneto. James McAvoy, you could make a case, is as good of a Professor X as Sir Patrick Stewart. It's the one time I've liked Jennifer Lawrence in a movie that's not called Silver Linings Playbook or I like her American Hustle. But yeah, that's the best version of Mystique that Jennifer Lawrence has played. And it went ahead and brought a bunch of mutants that most people who didn't grow up reading X-Men, who aren't familiar with the canon, would know, and it made them relevant. Really great action scenes. I love the way they play off the whole, Xavier is Martin, and, Magneto's Malcolm X. I love that dynamic, and it felt fresh. It felt it felt like they were just revitalized, just pumped to get back in the X-Men. I love the last third of the movie where it does break down into more of an action film, but there's still so many dramatic beats. Rose Byrne is great in that movie. I think as an X-Men film, top to bottom, it's about as good as the X-Men films have got. And once they put out this stupid Dark Phoenix movie. Hopefully Marvel gets the rights to them back and we'll get good X-Men movies. But that's my number 7. Speaking of X-Men movies, my last film before I kick back to you, it's Logan, which we still need to review. And god damn it, Logan is just... we talked about it, Colin. I cried like there was no tomorrow in that movie. And I was just like, oh my god, I can't handle this. And I knew what was coming, but... Hugh Jackman, man, he played Wolverine for over a decade, which is insane to think about. It's the best version of that character I think we'll ever get. Like, I don't think anyone will ever touch it.
Like a decade and a half, really.
Yeah, like he played a character. Yeah, because X-Men was, what, 2000? 2001?
2000.
Oh, God, that's a trip. Yeah, so he almost had 2 decades playing that. God, that's crazy. But Hugh Jackman, he's just wonderful in that movie. And... everything from the tone to the score, which is one of the best scores I've heard in a superhero movie, to the action being so brutal. And, you know, this has been the drum I'd been beating for years, saying we need a rated R Wolverine movie. His power is to cut people. We need to see this rated R. And you get just the most brutal, intense Wolverine that I wanted. And the last 30 minutes is just, oh god, it's some of the best 30 minutes I've seen in an action film ever. Like, it's up there with Terminator 2 for me, to be totally honest with the action. Just, when he goes into full berserker mode, I was in the edge of my seat going, fuck yeah, Logan, get him! Just, it's so good.
It is a lot like a Terminator movie like that. It's a good call.
It kind of is. And just the emotional beats. Sir Patrick Stewart, he's so incredible in it. The girl who plays X-23, they need to get her for future films. She should be X-23 proper moving forward. Stephen Merchant was great in that movie. Like, it's so...
Oh, yeah, I forget that he was in it. He was great.
It's so great across the board. And that last shot, that last frame is one of my favorite shots in a movie, period. And that's when just the waterworks, like, oh! Like, that's when I broke down. So, yeah, Logan, my number 6. Colin, my friend, I'm curious to get your list. What you got?
Alrighty. So, my 10 through 6 is packed full of nostalgia.
Nice.
When I think of comic book movies, I just like... there's certain ones that just stand out because of, like, the impact they had on, like, my, like, movie-loving, like, person that I am now. And so when I was thinking about it, I was just like, I gotta give credit to, like, some old-school ones that, like, really just kind of instilled that love of comic book movies in general and just going to the theater in general. Because I feel like around middle school, high school is where, like, my real love of going to the movies, like, was established. And between the grades of 7th and 8th grade, the first X-Men came out in 2000. So, man, and just, like, thinking back, I was just like, I remember being obsessed with that movie. Like, when that movie hit, I mean, what we had in the past was, like, a bunch of Batman movies.
Yeah.
Like, in grade school, I just remember, like, let's go see the next derp Batman movie with, like, Jim Carrey or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Batman Forever, Batman Robin.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, those were, like, the last 2 big comic book movies that, like, stood out in my head. And then, like, all of a sudden, and it, like, really the movies of, like, the 70s and 80s and 90s were just dominated by DC, really, with, like, Superman and Batman movies. And then when I feel like the Marvel shift, like, really happened when this X-Men movie came out in 2000. And I like how much you love First Class and how you talk about it, how it's like your favorite version of X-Men. And I totally respect that. For me, like, when I think about, like, seeing the first X-Men movie, I'm just like, Sir Patrick Stewart, Sir Ian McKellen, and Hugh Jackman, like, those are just, like, so iconic.
That's fair.
For me. Like, seeing them in their roles for the first time, like, I have just, like, this romantic connection with the first X-Men and seeing it. Like, no one's talking about how much they love James Marsden as Cyclops.
Dude, they've still not gotten right. Like, I feel bad for James Marsden. Like,
yeah. And, like, I mean, Halle Berry was pretty iconic as Storm for a while, but I think everybody kind of turned on her once The Last Stand hit.
Yeah, I never liked her as Storm, by the way. Sorry, just throwing that there.
Oh, okay. Well, I remember when she was first Storm, I just remember at least, I like was like, oh, I thought she was a good Storm.
Yeah.
In any case, yeah, that movie just, like, I don't know, it set me on a path of loving comic book movies going forward. And then we get to my next one, so I just thought, like, it just made sense to jump right in to the movie that really just made my young brain explode, which was in 2002, 2 years later, when Spider-Man first
Nice.
came. And I remember the first time I saw Spider-Man, I mean, I was just blown away. Like, they did such a good job for 2002, when special effects were still pretty limited, when they had him swinging around New York City and doing everything. I was like, I thought it was, like, really awesome. And as far as how it holds up today, I was rewatching, like, a bunch of the scenes on YouTube, just, like, trying to remember it. And I mean, it's just Sam Raimi all over it.
Yeah, it is.
And he's like a fun director. It's, like, pretty campy almost to watch it now. But it still has, like, these super iconic scenes. Like, it obviously has, like, the upside down kiss with Kirsten Dunst, which was, like, iconic forever.
So hot.
Yeah, I know. Like, especially being, like, a young kid, like, hitting puberty, like, going and watching Spider-Man. I was just like, damn.
Kirsten Dunst is dude. That definitely helped bring me into puberty. Seeing Kirsten Dunst, like, I was like, damn, like, because I was sitting there thinking, I was like, God, if I was Spider-Man, I would totally kiss you that way. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I know, like, he hasn't had the news in his favor lately, but James Franco, like,
you're not wrong.
yeah, back when he was just playing, you know, the asshole spoiled friend Harry Osborn to Tobey Maguire, and his dad's fucking William Dafoe. I mean, it was an incredible cast, I thought. And yeah, that movie's just always just. I mean, I watched that so many times.
I did too.
Like, when I got the DVD of Spider-Man for the first time, I mean, like, forget about it. I mean, it was like I watched that like so many times in a month. So I mean, I had to put it on the list. Just these first two specifically, X-Men and Spider-Man. I was like, they're gonna be at the back of the list because they're clearly not. They don't hold up to the movies of today, but they just had such an influential, like, impact on me when I first saw them. You know what I mean? All right, and then going into the next one, this was the start of the whole MCU. I love the first Iron Man. Yeah, I love just like the first two on my list. I am partial to the origin story. I like the origin story. I like, especially because I wasn't the biggest comic book nerd, so these movies really helped establish, like, the background for these superheroes really well, and especially for, like, how many times Robert Downey Jr. ended up playing Iron Man.
He's still playing Iron Man.
Yeah, he's still playing Iron Man. There's going to be a movie next year with Iron Man in it. This is insane. It's been over 10 years. But, like, the first one, I mean, you have a great movie to look back on and be like, that was the first time this dude was Iron Man. And Jon Favreau did it. He did a great job. Surprised everybody.
Yeah.
The special effects were incredible for 2008 when that came out, and he's flying around. I felt like I was flying around in the theater. Didn't we go see that together for the first time in, like, San Luis Obispo?
So multiple movies that I have on here, we actually went and saw together, and that's one of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here. So yeah, I love the first Iron Man, and that's another one where it's just like, I mean, I do think the first Iron Man is better than Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3, in my opinion.
That's fair.
But, like, obviously Iron Man, like, well, we'll get to that later. The next one is, this one's not a nostalgia factor. This one's just a fucking hilarious movie, and it's Deadpool.
Nice.
Yeah. So, what are we on? 10, 9, 8. This is
Yeah.
7. So 7 is Deadpool. The original Deadpool. We talked about this in the review. I fucking love the second one, but the first one has a better story. It's a better movie overall. And it came at like a great time where, I mean, the MCU movies were really killing it. But I feel like every other movie that was coming out around this time was like not good. You know, X-Men was going off the rails, doing like Armageddon and shit, or Apocalypse, is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's like terrible third one in that series. And then, you know, the DC universe was just in disarray before Wonder Woman saved it, at least momentarily.
Yeah.
But the way that Deadpool just like came and just provided this like breath of air to like the seriousness that like all the comic book movies were like forcing you to like, they were just like, you know, we're very important movies and we're very, very serious, and like I can get behind that to an extent, but like when the movies are really bad and they're trying to be so serious with all the special effects that are going wrong, like it was nice to see Deadpool come and just like make fun of the whole fucking genre, and make fun of itself and make fun of its lead actor for his poor acting choices in the past.
That's so good.
Yeah, so it was so funny. It was the first like R-rated comic book movie in a while, and one that was like directly related to like, you know, a Marvel character that people knew, I feel like, pretty well. So it was just, I mean, really, when I think about it, it's just I love that it was so funny. I think that's why it just had to be on the top 10. But other than that, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just love it.
That's fair.
Not much else to say. Number 6, another origin story. I love Christopher Nolan. I feel like that to the extent that I love Christopher Nolan makes you like him less.
You're not entirely
I don't know if that's true or not, but like you definitely, I feel like, are annoyed, if not just me, but how a lot of people hold him on such a high pedestal.
I'm more upset that sometimes I think people are just not willing to accept his faults because he's so good, if that makes sense. Because I think he's talented as shit, and I didn't love Dunkirk like everybody did, but he has not made a bad film yet. Like,
right?
Yeah. But go ahead.
So in any case, just we sometimes disagree, but I think you really love this one too, and this is Batman Begins.
I fucking love Batman Begins so much.
Yeah, Batman Begins is like a fucking fantastic origin story.
Yeah.
Really, how he like Bruce Wayne goes and learns his like incredible martial arts and fighting skills, like it just brings this like very real like background and story to why Batman can kick anybody's ass like in the streets of Gotham, because he's just a ninja. Which is the best background story ever. Like, of course he would go all the way to like an Asian, you know, like hidden city and learn how to be a fucking like ninja. And this came out at a time where, like, this was 2005, so this was like the summer where we were just graduating high school, and there had been like 2 X-Men movies. You know, I think there had been 2 Spider-Man movies already. There was a Hulk movie. So Marvel was really just like grabbing the market share of the movie theaters with their movies that they were putting out. And they were all kind of like a little bit more fun and lighthearted. And this movie did what Zack Snyder fails to do every time now, which is kind of like change the tone, do a little bit more of a serious movie. And Christopher Nolan just like, I thought he hit it out of the park.
He really did.
And Batman Begins was incredible, and it was a nice change of pace. So yeah, man, that was my number 6.
Hunter,
what you got? Top 5.
I would like to change my statement from earlier and actually say Batman Begins is better than Prestige. I don't know why the fuck I didn't think of Batman Begins. So I'm very high, boys and girls, so I apologize. Yeah, it's Batman Begins. And I'll even go a step further. I think it's the best out of the trilogy. Because we got Ra's al Ghul, we got Scarecrow still fucking terrifies me. I just watched Batman Begins like 2 months ago, and I went, oh wow, that's right. That's really fucking creepy. I love Batman Begins. I think it's just good call, man. Good start to your list. I appreciate.
Thanks, man.
So funny that you bring up Batman, because my number 5 is a Batman film, but not the one that most people think. It is Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. So, talking about movies that helped get us into theaters, this was the first Batman movie I saw as a kid in theaters. Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, of course, is based off of the amazing and still in my top 10 favorite TV shows ever, Batman the Animated Series. It's a longer episode of one of the episodes from the animated series, and it shows Batman falling in love with someone, and you find out what makes them tick as far as them turning out to being the Phantasm, this new villain who is willing to kill, and yet Batman, of course, that's his one rule: he won't kill. Mark Hamill's the Joker is terrifying and hilarious in this movie, which is probably my favorite thing about Mark Hamill's version of the Joker, is that he can just flip that switch. He can go from being like, he's hilarious, to, he's a sociopath. Play the Arkham games, by the way, if you haven't done that. It's like a rated M version, basically, of the animated series. I love Mark Hamill as the Joker. Anyways, in Kevin Conroy as Batman, you get his mythos, you get why he shuts people out, and how even when he tries to not shut people out, he's almost destined to just always be Batman and only be able to get so close to someone. Batman Mask of the Phantasm, we're gonna have to review that here in the next month or so. That is, to me, is still, if it's not the best Batman film that's been made, it's the second best behind Batman Begins. I love Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Think it's absolutely brilliant. So that's my number 5. My number 4 is the best Spider-Man film that's ever been made. Fucking fight me. It is Spider-Man: Homecoming at number 4. Tom Holland is a perfect Spider-Man. He's perfect. He's the perfect Peter Parker. He's nerdy, he's anxious, he's shy. In this Spider-Man, he's quippy, he's confident, but he's still figuring out his shit. And he was one of my favorite parts of Infinity War, seeing him in the Iron Spider costume. But in Homecoming, it's so cool to see him, go from this kid who just wants to, be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to someone who is Avengers worthy, to taking on Michael Keaton's Vulture. The scene of Peter with Tomb's daughter at the stoplight, where he figures out that he's Spider-Man, I felt that is one of the most tense scenes I've seen in a comic book movie. It's just how Michael Keaton looks back, thank God your buddy Spider-Man was there. I was like, Jesus Christ, this poor kid. I love that movie so much. You could make the argument, I guess, that the action scenes aren't super, intense or what have you, but I think it's more than balanced out by the heart that Peter shows and the humor. That was always something that I just never felt the Spider-Man films were quite able to grasp, was Spider-Man's humor, including setting up for a potential Sinister Six movie, and the perfect use of Iron Man. He's in the movie just enough, but not enough to overshadow it or be a nuisance. I think Spider-Man: Homecoming juggles so many things perfectly, and it's a damn near perfect Spider-Man film. So that's my number 4.
Nice.
My number 3 is something that me, you, and Scott all went and saw together, and I will be honest, it's still one of my favorite movie-going experiences ever. It's Captain America: Winter Soldier. I still think...
Oh, yeah.
I still think that's in the top 3 best films that Marvel's made. It's insane how good that movie is, and I just rewatched it a couple weeks ago, and that fight scene on the street between Winter Soldier and not even Captain America, because it's Steve Rogers. He even has a shield and shit, and he still just goes and does work. And I love the hand to hand. It's so insanely well done, and I still think about the fact that Captain America gives Winter Soldier a German suplex, kips up.
Oh yeah,
kips up, and I was like, oh my god, Captain America! I love that movie so much. And Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, man, she has just grown to a great, not just star, but an action star. I mean, you think about that in Lucy and the Avengers movie she's done. She's a hell of an actress, and obviously, you know, stunt woman too. But she just does such a great job just with the stuff she is able to do. And me and Colin being fans of Community, it was so funny to see the fucking Russo brothers come in and just knock Captain America out from nowhere. Because people were like,
so random.
People were like, who are the Russo brothers? And they've done arguably the three of the best 5 films that the MCU has produced, because they've done Infinity War, Winter Soldier, and Civil War, and those are all 3 of some of the highest grossing and highest rated films that Marvel's ever produced. So the Russos are amazing, and that movie is just
crazy story. Crazy.
Yeah, it's they're genuinely brilliant, the Russos. So I just love that movie. So that's my number 3, and my number 2,
nice,
which I think might surprise you slightly. And my number 2. Sorry, let me cross my arms here. Wakanda Forever. It is Black Panther. That is my number.
Oh, it didn't make number 1. Wow.
I know. I thought that might shock you a little bit.
1 must be a doozy.
So I've already talked about it at length, so I'll try to make this quick. Black Panther has one of the best soundtracks. It has one of the best casts, and it just, the way that movie makes me feel, and I bought it 3 or so weeks ago, and I've probably watched it 10 times since I've owned it in 4K. But
nice.
Thank you. But I genuinely love that movie. Everything from the way that it portrays women as so powerful and strong, better than Wonder Woman. Oops. And the way that it has Michael B. Jordan as the villain, and Killmonger. What I love about him is that he's not terrifying just in his physical attributes, because I mean Michael B. Jordan, but also because
he's got all those scales on him too.
That's fine. I'd comfort him, but not just because of his physical attributes, but a lot of stuff he's saying isn't far off and isn't wrong, and that in itself is terrifying. When a villain, you kind of sympathize and get where the villain's coming from. That, I think that's scarier for most people than almost anything. And Chadwick Boseman really does grow into the role of T'Challa. He does start off just really not really knowing what to do, but everyone from Chadwick Boseman to Letitia Wright to Michonne from Walking Dead, I can never remember how to say it, Denai, I can't remember how to say your last name, to Ryan Coogler, who admittedly probably came into the movie with a giant chip on his shoulder, and you know what? He should have had a chip on his shoulder, because he's a great fucking director who I think has gotten overlooked for a lot more shit than he should have, and this was him really kind of laying everything on the line, being like, look what I can do for a big budget. So he will be Black Panther, black people, he'll be back for Black Panther 2, obviously, but the movie just came together so perfectly for me. And like I said, you have a Kendrick Lamar produced soundtrack, I'm probably gonna like the movie. So that was my number 2. So Colin, you're 5 through 2. What you got?
Man, I can't get over the fact that it wasn't number 1. It's crazy.
I know.
Shocking development here on the top 10 list. I love it though. You have a very interesting and awesome list so far, I must say,
thanks,
sir.
Man, you too.
Yeah, thanks. I like that we have some different movies here on our list to talk about. So number 5 for me, which saw the follow-up performance from an incredible performance by Chris Pratt in the first Jurassic World. He comes out of nowhere and does Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Blew my mind how cool this movie was, and kind of to ride the coattails about how much you love the soundtrack for Black Panther. I loved the soundtrack for Guardians of the Galaxy. It wasn't an original soundtrack, it was just a collection of these awesome 80s songs, which had like a really touching backstory to like why these songs existed to begin with, right? how they, it was his only ties to home.
Dude, okay. So,
that with like a...
Dude, we...
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, dude, that the beginning of that movie is such oh, damn, okay. It's like, almost like, oh.
Yeah, how about the beginning to Guardians of the Galaxy? When you walk into the theater and you're just like, oh man, I'm going to see this funny space epic, like, done by Marvel. They haven't really done something quite like this before, where it's, like, going to be super sci-fi. And then you walk in and it's like, oh, it's just, like, mother dying of, like, a horrible illness. And just, like, super intense. I'm, like, in the theater. I'm just like, oh, my God. Like, what movie did I walk into? Did I walk into the wrong theater? And he gets, like, abducted and then goes right into a scene where he's listening to his earphones, kicking these little, like, alien rats around, like, trying to find this thing in this cave. In this incredibly funny and well done, like, super well shot scene of him just dancing around to his music. And I was just like, okay, I could get used to this. This is an interesting idea for a movie. It's very different. And yeah, the movie as a whole just blew me away. It was so funny. I loved the sci-fi. I didn't know what the hell Guardians of the Galaxy was before I saw this movie. I don't think most people did.
Didn't.
They're like, oh yeah, like, oh, the Hulk shows up in one of their comics. And I was like, what? I was like, I thought they just made this up for... I was like, oh no, it's been around for like years. So that just also went to show how smart like Kevin Feige is, and how he would just believe that like this could work, mixed in with all these other like super well known characters, and I love it. I love just the obscurity of it. You got a talking raccoon, voiced by Bradley Cooper.
So random.
Like the most. Yeah, and then like a giant tree that only says I am Groot, voiced by Vin Diesel, and he actually gets credited for it.
Yep.
Most insane thing ever. It's so funny. He's like, on the poster it says Vin Diesel is Groot. I mean, it's the most incredible thing. Yeah, so that movie was just so weird, came out of nowhere, and it just totally shocked and surprised me. So that one made it far on the list. I was just thinking back and I was like, I really love that movie, and I watched it a lot at an older age, which is like rare for me. So that was number 5. Number 4, dude, when Marvel first did this, and like you knew it was coming, that they were making all of these movies, and then they were going to put them all together, and then it finally happened, and we saw the Avengers for the first time. Yeah. I mean, dude, the Avengers, it had never been done before. It really lived up to how incredible you thought it could be. You got to see all of these characters that were in their own individual movies all come together, and then all of a sudden, Thor is fighting Captain America and Iron Man, and they're all testing each other's might until they have a common foe in Loki. Just the idea of this happening, thinking back to when I originally saw X-Men, I was just like, this would have been like back in the early 2000s if like all of a sudden Spider-Man showed up in the X-Men movies. But it was like, that would never ever happen because no one was smart enough to, get the rights to all of them ahead of time and have a master plan. And the way it all played out and is still playing out,
Yep.
Which is insane that we're still waiting for the finale of all of this. And just going back to the nostalgia factor, and this is only from 2012, but I still just remember going to see this movie and being so excited, and then it all playing out just blew me away. So I had to put Avengers on there.
That's a great call.
Okay, number 3, Hunter. We're starting a string of movies that we saw together. And this first one, I flew out when you were living in Austin.
Yeah.
And we went to the coolest theater I still have ever been to at the Alamo Drafthouse. And we saw Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. And it changed my life.
Yes.
Because Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is life-changing. I mean, this... Michael Cera was really riding a high from Superbad coming into this, where all of a sudden, he was kind of a big star, and he got this movie called Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, And I was like, that's so random. And you come to find out that it's going to be directed by Edgar Wright. And I love Edgar Wright. We both do.
Yeah.
And he just makes the coolest movies. He's still making the coolest movies because he just made Baby Driver.
Yep.
But when he came out with this, I was just like, oh man, this is a must-see. And it was so much cooler and like so much nerdier with all this video game reference and nerd culture that like really appealed to me. I remember just feeling like, oh my god, this movie was just like made for me. Like, you know, like sitting in that seat and you're just like, this like couldn't be more perfect of a story and humor and little references. Like, I couldn't be happier sitting here watching this movie. And I just remember being in it just like overwhelmed by how incredible the experience was. Being in that cool of a theater, like on a trip in Austin, which is an awesome city.
Yes, it is.
And seeing Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And so much of how much I love this movie has to deal with seeing that for the first time in that theater and just being like, I didn't really know what I was in for. And it was just, it absolutely, like, I couldn't have prepared myself for how fucking awesome this movie was going to be. So, yep, that was number 3. Fucking love Scott Pilgrim.
Great film.
Okay, number 2. Here we go. I get to talk about it a little bit. You had to bash it before we even started, which was totally unnecessary. But my number 2 is The Dark Fucking Night.
Knew it.
We saw this together, and it was an incredible movie-going experience. I remember.
I do too?
Yeah. I think we saw it in Arroyo Grande. I remember seeing it there. Dude, I love The Dark Knight. I love Christopher Nolan. I already talked about him. I already sucked his dick on the mic. But, dude, The Dark Knight is one of my favorite movies of all time. I know how much you love Mark Hamill as the Joker in the Batman animated series, but for me, Heath Ledger is just, he's my Joker. Like, this movie, him being in this movie, he is so incredible. And then the fact that, like, he tragically died afterwards, and it was just, like, a painter, like Picasso, like, making his masterpiece and dying right afterwards. Like, of course, that's going to be, like, the most expensive painting of all time. But, I mean, like, it's crazy to think that this was, like, the last thing he did, and this could have even led to his death by how twisted and demented he had to get his mind state to, like, become this Joker.
Yeah.
Which says a lot. Of how good his performance is. He's the star, but on top of that, like, I loved Batman Begins so much. It was my number 6 movie on the list. And to follow that up, and now we got, you know, this whole new run with, you know, him already being Batman, so you get a lot more Batman being Batman actual scenes in this movie. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I still love it. Yeah, I can pop it in. I feel like there's like 20 iconic scenes that like I absolutely love. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it too much just because.
No, please.
You know, I might start crying.
I remember in particular. So I remember so many of my favorite movie-going experiences have been with you, which makes me very happy. Mm-hmm. And I remember in particular, the 1-2 punch of when the semi of the Joker flips, and we both looked at each other like, "Oh my god!" And then when Batman spins off the wall, we were both just like, "Ah!" Like, what? Like, I remember we both were like, this movie's amazing. How is this so good? How is this so good? That movie itself, it just has so many moments where you go, Christopher Nolan's a genius. And if I ever meet Christopher Nolan, I know I was talking shit about Dark Knight, I would gladly shake his hand and be like, sir, I even liked Interstellar, even though it was 3 hours long. I actually enjoyed Interstellar. Yeah, that's a great call, though. So
yeah, and I love. I really love Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox. I really love, Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon. I mean, some incredible actors. Michael Caine as Alfred. Like this whole, like the continuation of this whole series. Like, I just thought this was the best movie in the series, mainly because of the Joker. being such an incredible villain. I just think he's like the best villain that's ever been in any comic book movie, like basically in my opinion, which is why this just has to be number 2 for me.
And again, and dude, I cannot even be mad. That is a good choice. And the thing is, man, that film is so great. Just everything from the fight scenes, the scene at the dinner party. Damn, I might watch Dark Knight when I go to bed tonight. But anyway, so that's a good number 2, man. So number 2, but so I'm mature, but so okay. It's funny that you were surprised about Black Panther because not being my number 1, because the number 1 movie is still one of my favorite movie-going experiences ever, if not my favorite one, and it was with you, buddy. My number 1 is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Oh, nice!
So when I was doing this list, I probably did the list 7 or 8 times, and there was stuff I couldn't find room for. Like, I think Infinity War will go down in my top 5 favorite Marvel films when it's all said and done, because that movie just... Mm-hmm. It's
just too recent.
It's such and that's why I didn't put it on here. Is because I need to see it again, because I've only seen it once.
And I feel like the second half needs to happen too.
Exactly.
It needs to be a whole movie, and then it can be a movie.
Yeah, but A, I've only seen it once, and B, the wounds are still a little fresh from what I witnessed watching that. But Scott Pilgrim, when I think about a movie I quote quite often, and a movie that just... the scene where Scott holds up a drawing and goes, "Oh, hey, do you know who this is?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, it's Ramona Flowers," and it's just a scribble. That's still one of the hardest laughs I've gotten in any movie, because it's so fucking random. And it's the most hipster movie you can probably ever watch. But I mean it in the most endearing way, where I have the Scott Pilgrim soundtrack. I probably listen to Garbage Truck at least a couple times a week. I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting at work waiting for a call. I listen to Scott Pilgrim soundtrack quite frequently. I actually have Scott Pilgrim wristbands and a plum tree shirt. Like, I love Scott Pilgrim. And,
so good.
And Ramona Flowers, I bust her.
That's my dog. He likes your choice.
Well, he's a smart boy. But Mary Elizabeth Winstead is... I don't think I've ever fallen in love with someone on screen that quickly. I was like, all right, I love you. Cool. Like, I mean...
She's wonderful.
She's genuinely wonderful. And the score is so great. And then Jason Schwartzman, he's hilarious as a Gideon. And then Kieran Culkin as Wallace.
Wallace.
Yeah.
Dude, he's so good. He's so funny.
Yeah, his gay roommate. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
And
him and I like how he was like stealing Anna Kendrick's boyfriend.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, it's an amazingly clever movie, and there's so many. If you've grown up with video games, you'll just recognize like some of the sound effects and stuff that they incorporate in, and the pee bar when he goes pee. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious, and then just the way scenes cut with like reckless abandon, like you have to really be paying attention. But it's hilarious though, because that's how so many video games just was cut to the next thing. And then also
Edgar Wright's a genius.
He really is. Edgar Wright has yet to do, like, his worst movie for me is The World's End, and I'll still give that an A-. Like, I love Edgar Wright. He has yet to do me wrong, and Baby Driver, of course, as we've mentioned on multiple occasions, is just it's just wonderful. So yeah, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, number 1 for me personally. Black Panther could overtake it, but for right now, Scott Pilgrim though, it's just the genuine amount of love that Edgar Wright showed for that movie. And the fact that every time there's a boss battle in that, it's amazing. Chris Evans is wonderful in that movie. I can't think of his character's name. I'm totally blanking. But he plays like the action star. He's like, got my own skateboard brand, bro. Like, he's such a dick.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's such a dick. And
he's like, I bet you couldn't do a grindy thingy on that rail.
And I love that it cuts, like, that scene leads to Kieran Culkin. He's like, I can totally do one of those. Someone grabs my board. Kieran Culkin grabs the board and goes like, "Hey, big fan. Why wouldn't you be?" It's like, oh my god, like it's so.
I want to watch that movie.
Yeah, and then the fucking vegan police, like, oh, the movie's so good.
Isn't that Superman?
Yeah, they get Brandon Routh. Yeah, I was like, I thought that was vegan. Milk and eggs, bitch. I was like, oh, I love that movie so much. But yeah, Scott Pilgrim, number one for me, easy. Colin, you're number one. What you got, man?
That's so awesome. I'm glad you look back so fondly about that movie going experience.
I really do.
Like I do. My number one, you already talked about on your list, is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's crazy. You touched on the fact that the Russo brothers, before they were doing this, were just shooting Community, the TV show. I read a whole article about that, actually, and it just blew me away about how they came to be these incredible action superhero directors. Like, they started on Arrested Development, which is insane.
That's right.
Yeah, they started on Arrested Development, and then they basically started this whole new way of shooting comedy shows in America with the handheld cameras. And they, after that show got canceled, they moved on to Community, and they directed and shot the episode of Paintball.
Love that one.
Which was the an action movie, 2-part episode, and they got recognized from it by Kevin Feige and the MCU guys, and they invited him to shoot this movie, and they were like, okay, and they were so I feel like people are getting handcuffed a little bit now by Disney, which is unfortunate. Whether it be Star Wars or whatever people were doing, but with the Winter Soldier, they came in and they were like, we want to do our own kind of Marvel movie where we want to use a lot of real stunts, we want to do actual fight choreography, and we want to shoot it with as little CGI as possible compared to things that have been done with Iron Man and Thor, which had been really CGI heavy. And it comes off as this political old school thriller where he's basically he's like Ethan Hunt or James Bond. Captain America is this secret agent for the government, and it turns out he's actually fighting against someone who's actually an internal kind of mole who's killing everything from the inside, with power. White collar villain, played by Robert Redford as Alexander Pierce, who does an incredible job.
Yeah, he does.
And it's just it's this Bourne Identity, Mission Impossible, James Bond movie, but it's with Marvel and Captain America, and the opening scene where he jumps out of that fucking plane.
So good.
And he's like, did he have a chute? And he's just they're like, nope. And I was like, and he just fucking dives into that water. He gets on that boat. That opening scene where he just starts running as fast as he can. He's tossing dudes off the side like a ninja, in the middle of the night, on a big cargo ship. And then he ends up fighting I think it's GSP, who was an MMA champion at the time.
Yeah.
And it's a real fight. He's makes him drop his helmet and his shield, and he's just let's fucking go. And it's just so awesome. I appreciated so much of what they were doing. I watched an interview where they were talking about how they shot one of the scenes to mimic one of their favorite movies of all time, which is Heat, which has this incredible shootout in the middle of downtown metropolitan area. And they do the exact type of thing, and they do such a good job of it. the story is incredible and how it ties back to the first movie, and you find out Winter Soldier is Bucky. I mean, it just has it all, and it's so rewatchable. I love everything about this movie. So for me, when I was thinking about my list, I was like, I gotta put Captain America: The Winter Soldier as number 1.
Yeah, I remember we saw that in, me and Scott, we saw it in IMAX, 3D, I remember. And we all were just like, holy shit, that's one of the best action movies we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And
blown away.
And I'll be honest, that's an inner Terminator 2 discussion for me. Because when I think of my favorite action movie, it's probably Terminator 2. And just rewatching it recently, actually last week I rewatched it. I watched it like 3 nights in a row. I was like, start to finish. I'm like, yep, love Terminator 2. Fuck yeah. And Winter Soldier's right there. Like, it's really in that conversation for just one of my favorite action movies ever. I love everything about that movie. That's actually the first review. If you have not listened to our Winter Soldier review, that is our very first review we posted on here. You should go check that out. It's basically us blowing the movie for like an hour.
Yeah, well, it's still making number 1 on my list, and it was like top 5 in yours, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, we blew it pretty good.
Yeah, but we all like pretty much did a circle jerk to that movie. You're all like, oh my god,
Yeah.
like.
God. I didn't even at that time, I just knew I loved it, and I didn't even realize why I loved it so much. And then later on, as I watched interviews with the Russo brothers and the special features on the Blu-ray and watched it over and over again, I was just like, God, no wonder I loved it. These guys are incredible.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. But guys, let us know what you thought of our top. I would love to get people's top 10 lists, because I've heard some people say the original Superman's on there, Batman '89.
Ours varied a lot. You had ours didn't have too many that's crossed over.
Yeah, no, and I'll be honest, there were so many movies I went. I wanted to find a spot for the original Men in Black, because I love that movie. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I do love the first Men in Black. I mean, they definitely teeter off with that first one, but I do love that first Men in Black movie. And it's like, I couldn't find a spot for that, and yeah, so I think there's so many too. People think, forget V for Vendetta. That was that's based on a graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many movies that so a movie that barely missed my list was Road to Perdition. That's based off a graphic novel.
Okay.
And
nice.
And I went, I just can't find a spot for it.
That's Tom Hanks, right?
Tom Hanks, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
I love that movie. I just could not find a spot for it. So I would love to get people's thoughts on it.
I mean, Jingle All the Way could be considered a comic.
Oh my god, you're totally right.
I mean, you're the Turbo Man.
My god, why are we not talking about Jingle All the Way? Listen to our Jingle All the Way review, by the way, if you haven't already, because that's a fun one. But
do yourself a favor.
Yeah, listen to us break down the best plot of all time. But guys, let us know what your top 10 comic book movies are. I'd love to get some honorable mentions out of people too. You can follow us on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud at The Real Pineapple. You can follow Colin on Twitter at
The Real O'Neill.
And you can follow our buddy Scott. Scott, we love you, bud, at Nearman the First. And you can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple, and like us on Facebook at The Real Pineapple. Guys, this weekend we'll have reviews up for The Incredibles, Ocean's 8, and Won't You Be My Neighbor? That's my best Mr. Rogers. It's not very good, but we'll have a review up for that as well. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Meow.